And every once in a while, we make friendships that are really worthwhile. Joe Bernstein and I met at a networking meeting a few years ago. And again, Mark, I want to introduce you to this coach. And I usually recoil a little bit because I don't really need more coach friends. Although I love them, I don't need more coach friends. But I met Joe, and Joe was the real deal. From the moment I met him, he was a kindred spirit. He was someone I knew I could learn from, I could bounce ideas off of, and I knew made a difference in people's lives. He spent the last 15 years developing and training and coaching thousands of people, empowering teams, and really in leadership positions. He's also a certified mind body nutrition coach, which is really cool because part of his story is losing 150 pounds. Something really fascinating for me is he's the founding all right. So let's fix that.
Words happen sometimes.
He's Joe's one of the founders of Return to Base, a pro bono coaching program that's focused on combat veterans, which just, like, I could cry just thinking about how much those men and women need in this world. So I'll ask him about that in a little while. But today, Joe and I were just having a conversation, vampire to vampire, and we were talking about emotional competency. Now, emotional intelligence is the buzzword in the industry. Mm-hmm. But when Joe started talking about emotional competency and knowing his background and knowing what he does with people, I thought this was, I told him to stop talking and we have to get back together when I can press record. So Joe, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mark. I'm excited. I want to master midlife, man. I'm just getting into it. And
well, if anybody sees your picture, you have enough gray in your beard to qualify.
I do, and I've got like a whole new gray patch too, so I think I qualify. And you know, I joke around. I like to say I was really lucky because what most people call a midlife crisis, I went through at 30, 31, 32. So I think I did. I advanced. I skipped a couple of levels to get to my midlife challenges.
Well, you know, the way I define midlife is when we figure out that the drives, the motivations, the things that were working no longer work. We need to find a different way. And then that exploration of something different is when midlife shows up. And it could be when you're 15 years old. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into this topic.
I think that's starting to happen more and more in your place in people's lives.
Yeah. So let's dive right into the topic that we were talking about, emotional competency. Give me a little bit of your origin story of why this is such an important part of what you do in the world.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So origin story, like was mentioned, I've lost over 150 pounds. One of the things that's core to who I am is that I grew up well overweight, and the overweightness was really just a byproduct of numbing a lot of emotional chaos. Like, my family growing up was very loving, very supportive, middle-class family, active in synagogue. Everything looked good on the outside. My parents fought a lot, and it wasn't even terrible things they were fighting over. There wasn't drinking or drugs or infidelity. It was just they were both always stressed about time and money and parenting issues, like most parents. But they both reacted in very unconscious, I want to say emotionally immature ways. So I got to have a very emotionally chaotic home life growing up. And me and my whole family, we didn't really create addictions to drugs and alcohol. We created addictions to, like, sitting on the couch, watching TV, and eating a bunch of food. So I was like 300 pounds by the time I was 15, 16. And part of me just thought, like, this is who I'll always be. Fast forward, I end up getting married, which I never thought I would do. I end up having a pretty successful first career, which, again, I never thought would happen. I gave myself
so your leadership skills and your career competency was all there. You're just 300 pounds. So there's a clue that something's going on.
Yeah, I'm 340 pounds at one point. I get into a marriage that tends to be pretty dysfunctional and somewhat toxic. And I spent a lot of my life just trying to avoid risk, trying to avoid uncertainty, trying to avoid tense moments, trying to avoid conflict, being the typical nice guy. And it all came crashing down. At 30, I had more than I thought I ever wanted. We had a great condo. We were fostering dogs and training pit bulls, like we talked about ahead of time. We love to travel and like enjoy a decent income for two people without kids. And we had this condo. We totally renovated right by the store that I was running. I was running multiple Bose stores, and I was leading in sales. I had a good career that people recognized me nationally for having certain skills that I bring. Um, but all came crashing down. There was this emotional intelligence, as they call it, in like leadership training, in business training, in the corporate world that I had, and I always got high marks and high ratings there. But I didn't have competence to apply real leadership in my own life. I didn't have competence to know what my emotions were, to feel them, to express them, to communicate them without letting them turn me into a monster, right? So I was just like calm, nice guy, and then I just
Oh, so you had two modes. You went from cuddly teddy bear to rage
no, yeah,
quickly.
yeah, teddy bear to rageaholic, ragey ruckspin or something, but put in that rage tape. So I had that going on. It all fell apart. My ex-wife left me. It looked like I was having this career that was going way forward, but I woke up to the reality that like I didn't want the next steps. I didn't want the career life of my district manager. So within a short period of time, boom, it hit me in the face. Like stuff's not working. My body's not healthy. It never has been. My relationship is about to end, and I've never done well with love and with women in relationship. And my career that I thought I'd have for the rest of my life and succeed and keep growing in, it was real clear. Like this is not going to be the long-term career choice. I'm not as passionate as I once was. So I got lucky. That moment where I said, it's not working, something's got to change, happened for me at about 31. Um, the ex-wife did leave. We did get divorced. I then went on a tear to learn about what got me into the situation, which got me really passionate about learning how to get out of the situation.
So cool. So slow that one down. What does
Yeah,
that mean that you went on a tear to learn what got you
yeah.
into that situation?
I I caught the bug. We went to couples therapy for a few months, her and I. And the therapist said, "Okay, you guys like read this book, The Five Love Languages." Right? It's an amazing book. And that actually got me really excited to learn about relationship. And I remember being halfway through that book and turning to her and going, I don't know if we're going to save this thing, but I know that I want to work my butt off on it so that we learn. And if we do stay together, we're great, or that we both learn and we have great relationships in the future. I remember just telling her that in the car one day. But then from there, I just wanted to learn anything I could about relationship. And then when we split up, I'd already lost a little weight, so I wanted to learn anything I could about health and body. I wanted to learn about nervous system because I realized I was always stressed and overwhelmed and making decisions out of fear and hiding my truth from others. I wanted to learn about how our mind worked, how our body worked, how attraction worked, how sex and sexuality worked. I wanted to know what would make a fulfilling life because I'd spent a lot of my time just like not expecting much out of myself. And when I got anything of success, I would like hold on for dear life and just not risk anything to get there. So it's a little of what I meant. I mean, I did everything you could think of: meditation and men's groups and transformational weekends and online coaching programs and working with coaches, like continued with therapy. I just kind of went on a tear for several years. I guess I'm still doing it just in different ways now.
Right. No, you're totally obsessed because once we find that path, it's a never ending path. The more we don't, the more we
Mm-hmm.
know, the more we know we don't know.
Yeah.
So that leads you to learning about nutrition
Mm-hmm.
and your body. So the weight loss is not insignificant.
Thank you. Yeah. The weight loss is big. And really what I learned was I was in that situation in my life because people would say like, well, I was open emotionally. I was someone who could talk about emotions. I was able to use emotional intelligence in a business setting. But my emotions, I didn't have any understanding of them. I didn't know what to do with them. I either kept all them in check and in hiding, or I exploded, or I ate them, or I just numbed out and watched TV. So really me learning to get healthy and transforming my relationship and love life and even just taking the risk to go out on a limb, end my first career, decide I was going to find a way to help people professionally. So much of that came on having day-to-day capacity to understand my emotions and to take action using them as messengers, using them as information, as opposed to just trying to power past them or through them or over them.
How'd you find the courage?
Oh, which part?
Any of it, like, because that's part of it. Like, how do you
Yeah.
find the courage to break out of the patterns, the conditioning, the safety, whether it's killing you or not, the safety
Yeah.
of doing what you've always done and trying something new?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I imagine just not eating what you used to eat
Yeah.
brought up feelings, and who the
Yeah.
hell wants feelings?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. It was really clear to me that the life that I had created wasn't worth continuing to try and create. I just knew, like, everything had fallen apart. I was sure the career had to end, the relationship was over. And I just remember thinking, well, I don't want to just get back to that. That actually, now I've walked through a threshold where I look back and I'm no longer in denial. The life that I thought was beautiful and amazing and wonderful was actually stressful and painful, and I was compromising my integrity, and I didn't feel good about myself, and I had plenty of self-esteem, but no deep core confidence. And so it felt like, oh, that episode of Seinfeld where Costanza decides he's going to try everything the opposite of what he would normally
Yeah.
try. I don't want to say that I took on a Costanza mindset, but literally I just thought there's nothing left to lose. If I have an instinct to do something one way, why don't I try it another way? If I've always done love and dating this way, which was very passive and tentative and hesitant, then why not just go all out and put myself out there and get rejected right away? If I've always thought that I had to work for someone else, and I'm a guy who's not very studious or academic, so I never even finished a college degree. I thought, well, I have to work for someone else and I have to work some sort of service job, and there's no way anyone will pay me well. Why not choose to create the option that maybe I can work for myself? Maybe I can make good money. Maybe I can do something that matters. So it was really almost like nothing's worked. Challenge all of your behaviors, challenge your beliefs, challenge your language, challenge your thoughts. And I found good content. Like, it talked about being the typical nice guy. I found some of the Dr. Glover content with No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I did the work. And I found coaches in the world of dating and relationship that basically said, look, boldness is the only way to get out of your stasis.
Mm.
Taking bold action, taking risk, learning something and trying to apply it immediately. It's really the only way to grow if you want to grow rapidly. I'm a big fan of slowing people down nowadays in their growth, but at that time I wanted to grow rapidly. So I was willing to do things that scared me all the time. And then I'm just going to link this together for you. This is the thing that people don't understand about courage, right? Once we start to really embody courage, once we take risk, once we get used to uncertainty and being new and being a beginner and failing and looking stupid and making mistakes, that's where the aliveness is. So I felt really alive for the first time in my life by doing courageous things that were the opposite of what I'd always done. And that aliveness to me is like what we're here for, right? Um, Joseph Campbell has that quote about, I don't know that we're necessarily searching for the meaning of life, but we're here to experience what it feels like to be alive.
Mm.
And I'm a big fan of that. I'm just like, we need to feel alive and excited and passionate and growing and learning. We need to be on our edge, and we need to learn to relax too. But that's, the edge. I had the relaxation. I didn't have the edge thing.
Mm. So how does that lead us to emotional competency all these years later? Did you lose sound? Oh, you're back. The magic of editing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? No? Can you see me?
There we go.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me? Can you see me?
Yes. Is that better?
Yes. 1, 2,
Okay.
3. Fast forward through all this intense work.
Yeah.
Now you and I are sitting here together talking about emotional competency.
Hmm.
What's that mean to you?
Yeah. So that means to me that someone who's emotionally competent, they understand what our primary emotions really mean, what they indicate, what the message is behind an emotion. They have the mindfulness to actually feel the emotion and capture the thoughts that are generated with the emotion and slow down and choose what it means and choose how they're going to respond rather than just reacting out of emotion. It means that they're curious. They don't think that they know what other people are feeling or thinking, that they're wanting to find out. They know how to ask questions to help others identify the emotion that's coming up. And it really means that we know our values really well, because often when we're having an emotional experience, it's related to our values, our expectations, it's related to agreements, it's related to, of course, imprinting from the past. So when I'm feeling something, I can explain to somebody, I felt this. Here's why it's about me and not about you. Here's what value it's related to. And if you're willing to support me, if you're willing to be collaborative, here's what it might look like for us to move forward. Here's how you can help me and help us in this scenario. So it really is a combination of like understanding values, understanding emotions, mindfulness, and then the capacity to communicate.
I was going to say because the what you just did in the middle of there was some communication skills that you put on top of the emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. So I'm gonna bring you back. So you and I both have done work with the Mankind Project.
Yeah.
Actually decades now. But I remember the first time I went to one of those meetings and when they said, what emotions are, and I thought I knew what emotions are, and they said, yeah, emotions are mad, sad, glad, angry, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, then we layer all this stuff on top of all those things and all those things
Right.
we think about all those things. So first is when you said slow down and actually experience whatever it is you're feeling and try and understand what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Then the second thing I heard you say was when you're looking at someone else, don't project onto them what they're feeling. I mean, and if anybody who's been in a relationship with a woman will know that never tell them what they're feeling.
I'm the
Right.
same. People try and tell me, hey, you look like this or that. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I just get up.
Yeah. No, don't tell me what I think. Don't tell me what I feel. Right.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah.
in other words, ask, what are you feeling? What are you
Yeah.
thinking? What's going on over there? Now we can go into a whole other level of maybe we're not feeling what we think we're feeling. Often when we're feeling angry, there's really fear or sadness, and we can go even deeper in there. But the point that I think you're making is to slow down and start to learn your own emotional roadmap.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally. And so it's really just that, it's understanding it. And there's so many elements too. It's mindfulness, it's embodiment really are very important in
So
this.
now you're using big words, and I know
Yeah.
most people know what mindfulness is, but
Right.
let's talk about embodiment. What the hell
Yeah.
does that mean?
To me, it just actually means having a real connected relationship to our body, to physical sensation. So I think about, for example, like embodiment would be, oh, here's embodiment. My body will start reacting, showing me that I'm tense or angry before I, Joe, if you will, like the observer Joe, realizes it.
Hmm.
And how I know this is I can feel warmth in my chest, and chances are I'm starting to clench my hands and open them or play with my fingers. There's energy moving from my core to my limbs, and it shows up in my hands, like balling up and such. If I,
I feel it in my ears.
yeah,
Like I can start to feel my ears flush. So yeah.
yeah, and I've worked with clients who are really athletic, really athletic. Like they can do amazing things with their body, but then you watch them eat a beautiful meal and it's just like taking in energy. Like they don't even feel it, sense it, notice the textures, and like notice how flavorful it is and how amazing. They don't like stop to slow down. And also when we talk about emotions with them, it's almost like they're a great athlete because they've learned to shut down feeling and force through it and
Mm.
perform with the body rather than really be connected to the body and feel it. Um, and so that's like those are some examples of embodiments, just being able to feel the body. And I can tell you, when I first used to go to work with coaches or therapists or in the Mankind Project meetings, people would say, oh, what's your emotion? And where are you feeling it in your body? I thought they were insane. I was like,
Yeah, me
all
too.
these people are lying.
Does it have a color? Does it have a
Yeah.
shape?
Oh, you're making it up. Like, what do you mean? Where do I feel it? You're making it up. I'm mad because somebody was a jerk. Like, and I couldn't. And now it takes years, but I can't walk through a farmer's market without experiencing all these sensations in my body that are related to emotion and sensation and the way the wind is hitting and like seeing the baby eat the pear and the baby smiles and like you get excited, you feel it in the body. So it's a huge part of actually just experiencing life that I think we don't focus on that much in this culture. We're very head first, you know?
Sure. So now we
Yeah.
know understand emotions. We get our emotions. Now we're embodied. We're starting to learn how our body reacts to things and those feelings.
Yeah.
Now we want to take it for a test spin out in the world and into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now what do we do with these things? So all right, I'm
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent. Now I want to be competent. So I have to go practice. We
Yeah.
got to go practice with other people.
Right, right. So, I do think our relationships in our life are great practice. Our relationships that we're in intimately, romantically, even relationships with family, relationships in community and volunteer work, they're all there. But at the same time, a lot of the time in those relationships, you haven't really set up the context that, hey, I'm going to work on this way with this person. Right? So you can work on it with yourself. Like when I go to hang out with my family, I can work on all my little emotional triggers that come up and I can stop myself and I can slow down and I can be present and I can share what's happening in my emotions. But I know they haven't spent a lot of time doing the work to dig in, to create emotional competence, to create different styles of communication. So my work's really personal when I'm with my family, if that, even though it's interpersonal, if
It's
that
not
makes
about
sense.
them anyway. So
Right.
it's about your own inner world
Right.
anyway, right?
Yes, but in a relationship let's say I go to a men's circle or I'm working with my coach, we're there specifically to do this kind of work. So there is shared language, there's context for it. There's moments where we actually have processes to practice. With my romantic partner, she is very embodied and very emotionally aware and practices meditation and we both agree that hey, relationship is not necessarily here, it's here to be joyful and beautiful and sweet and make life worth living, but it's not necessarily made to be easy. It's meant to
Mm.
challenge us to grow and to be our best and to help us learn how we can actually be more of service and loving to self and others. So there I can now actively practice it quite a bit. So that shows up a lot of the time in like what would be a fight in a past relationship is now a tense conversation that might take several rounds where both people are being very emotionally courageous by sharing where they're at, sharing what they're feeling, being vulnerable and taking risks quite often to be honest rather than holding back.
Mm.
We're co-creative. We don't know the solution, but we go in saying, okay, well, there's a challenge here, there's a tension, there's a problem. We're in service not to being right, we're in service to figuring out how we grow and move forward from it. That to me it takes a lot of practice as well too.
So what's the
Um,
payoff? Why do all this?
why do all of it? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be understood. I want to be loved. I want intimacy. I want collaboration. I
What
want
are you from
creativity in my
California?
life. No, no, but no. But I'm going there in a few weeks. But so anyway, point is,
No, do you get my point? So
yeah,
the reason I say
yeah,
that is because I talk to so many people who are so not
yeah,
aware of even knowing that I think everybody wants to be seen,
sure.
heard, gotten, right? Connected with all that stuff. But so many people are so hurt and have shut down in so many ways that they're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to connect with people. I don't want to talk with people. I don't need to be seen. So they don't
Yeah.
even go there. Right. So
Yeah.
now you're opening up this world to get this exquisite thing that we're just telling people about,
Hmm.
that you can connect on the level where you see a child eating a pear and
Right.
you can connect with that child so much that you
Yeah.
can get the joy that that child is
Right.
having.
So on just a very simple level, I do believe that we want a very meaningful life. I do believe that we want to feel our edges and excitement. And I think almost everyone wants to feel great in life. Great in life doesn't necessarily mean it's easy or always joyful. Great means full and rich and alive. So why wouldn't you want to walk through a farmer's market and experience beautiful things and have deep conversation and have these wild moments of sensing a lot of what's going on in your life? Why wouldn't you want to stop fighting with a partner and begin to create collaborative conversations where both people stay calm and present and think of how they can grow through the challenge? Because the challenge is coming anyway. Why not take every moment of uncertainty in a business meeting and use it to create deeper understanding of the people and the problem and the solution and the systems that aren't necessarily working and the ones that are working? Why not see under the surface to create more? And so I think just on that level of, as a person, why not want more? And a lot of my clients, they have challenges where they're system focused. They can think at a very high level. Their mental infrastructure is extraordinary, but then the places where they're no longer actually succeeding in life, in their relationships, and often in leadership positions, it's because they don't have this level of competence with their emotions, with their body. On a bigger picture level, I think we're at a time right now in our world where it's changing a lot. I believe that people who have often had power and privilege, like myself, the scales and the energy and the weight is shifting. I think that there's going to be a massive shift in the way people see value in other human beings and in how communities are going to work and how our political systems are going to work and how our global structures are working. I just see a big shift. And if we're going to stick to the rigid ways we used to, which are like, I'm just going to figure out how to use my head to get through things, and I can be a problem solver and I can just learn and study knowledge, I don't think that's going to get us through these next several decades, whether that be personally, interpersonally, family systems, communities, or globally. I think we have to start thinking and feeling and using more of our human technology to move through these next stages of human evolution. And it's happening rapidly because of technology. It's happening rapidly because we can all see and hear from each other so much more. So why not be on the forefront? Why not be on the edge of building the skills to be able to evolve with our world and help it become more amazing and beautiful and powerful and loving and liberated?
Cool. So I'm going to put you on the spot. So before we go, I'm going to put you on the spot and have you, before we can get to this whole global change, we need to be able to sit in a coffee shop or sit at our kitchen table and actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
So in my relationship, we're on the opposite ends of the political spectrum. It has taken me years, and I'm a Zen master. It has taken me years. And my son has said to me, Dad, I never see you lose your shit. Dad, you're just so present and so calm and so loving, except when you talk about politics. He says, and then you lose your shit. And I'm like, you're right.
Right.
And it has taken me years to finally come to all of the baggage that I bring to a political conversation, all the things I make things mean, all the things I project onto my partner who lives in a completely different world than I do, does not see blue the way I see blue, does not see orange the way I see orange, right? So walk me through, you're talking to someone and one's a liberal, one's a Trump conservative, and we now have gunpowder. How do I take emotional responsibility and learn some emotional competence so that I can actually have a conversation and not melt
Hmm.
down into mudslinging.
Yeah. Well, actually having a conversation requires that we're not that emotionally triggered. So when we're talking about
So how do I not,
yeah,
how do I not get him? How do I, like,
yeah,
give me a practice that
yeah.
I can do when I'm walking into a coffee shop and I'm going to have a conversation with someone who I know is completely different than I am.
Hmm. So I think it depends a lot on the relationship that you want to have with the person, but a practice would be if you know that you get very heated emotionally when it comes to issues of politics, just be really thoughtful about who you're going to have that conversation with. Can you definitely repair the relationship if things go haywire? But really, I hope you would have practiced a little bit of mindfulness work, so that way some meditation, some breath work, something. Because in the moment that you start to feel that energy well up in your body, assuming you do, or the moment you notice yourself responding sharply, raising your voice, you have to pause, take a breath. If you're already raising your voice, I would
So
actually say walk away.
pause, take a
I
breath.
would actually say walk away if you're actually raising your voice. But if you just notice the tension and the heat coming up, you're angry. What I assume the
Which me,
emotion is
and for me,
anger.
when I'm angry in a political conversation, I have
Yeah.
finally gotten to the point where I actually know I'm scared.
Hmm.
It's triggered fear. Whenever
Yeah.
I have irrational anger, it's always fear.
Right. Right. So let's say you're angry. You can ask yourself. So anger is a perception of violation. It's just the way it works. We
Exactly.
perceive something's being violated or has been violated. So slow down and ask in that moment. And this is why, like, it takes help sometimes. What's what do you perceive as being violated? What value? What
These are questions. These are
expectation?
questions you can ask yourself.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I do it all the time with myself. I try and teach clients to do it as much as
So good.
possible.
So give me
Yeah,
more. So what is being violated in
yeah.
me? What am
So
I afraid of?
right,
Give me some more questions.
and yeah, and violation could be expectations, could be beliefs, could be agreements, it could be values. Right? If I'm fiscally conservative, then I value personal responsibility in my financial landscape or whatever. So is what the other person's saying something that I think is a violation of my values? And check it, right? Is that true? Is there really a violation here? Or am I just perceiving? If you can't find anything that's actually being violated, like you've already alluded to, it's probably some sort of like gateway emotion for something else.
Sure. The other question
Yeah.
I often ask myself is, what am I making up about this other person because they
Right.
have that view?
Right. And why am I taking their view personally? How is this an indicator of who I think I am? How is this any indication of my personal value if they don't agree with me? So can I be in a situation where I don't believe other people's opinions have to do with my value as a human? That might be a precursor to walking into a political conversation and trying to do it well. Um, but anyway, so let's say you're, like you said, you realize, okay, there's really nothing being violated and I'm making a bunch of stuff up. So really underneath it, I'm sad. Well, then what'd you lose? Or what do you think you're losing?
Mm.
What do you believe is being lost in this conversation? And I'll give you a quick example. If I don't understand something, at first I'll get frustrated. Like someone paints a picture of some new concept I've never heard of. I actually will start to get frustrated and like challenge them. Like, what do you mean? You're not explaining it well. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then when I slow down and I take a breath and I close my eyes, I realize, ooh, actually what I feel is not anger. I'm feeling more of a sadness. There's some sort of sadness. When I start to ask myself what I lose, usually if I'm confused in that moment, I've lost the perception of me being a guy who can figure everything out and who can take
Mm.
in information. Because that's real important to me. Because
That's why it's threatening to you.
yeah, I have learning disabilities. I don't read well. Like I never have in my entire life. I read slowly. I can't do math.
So all that
So,
baggage comes into this whole thing,
yeah, if
right?
I can't listen and perceive a concept, and I'm very philosophical, very conceptual. If you give me a spreadsheet and I don't understand it, no sweat off my back. But if you're explaining a concept to me or an emotional situation to me or an interpersonal situation and I don't get it, that confronts my identity and I actually find I'm sad. but I'll start with the frustration or anger and kind of like attacking someone and trying to validate my understanding or lack of understanding through telling them they're wrong, you know? But it keeps going down, and we can see you brought a complexity to it that I hadn't intended to, which is often the first emotion isn't necessarily even the real emotion.
Yeah, I tend to do those kinds of things.
That's a hard one to get to for, I think, for the average listener. It's like there's so much to even being able to drop in and feel the first emotion and understand it and question it to then know what's coming. Or sometimes, as you've probably experienced, if we just shut up, quiet down, feel, and let it pass, we find the secondary or the real emotion eventually.
Walk away. Yeah, walk away. Let that the body's trigger, whatever that is,
Yeah.
subside. For me, pen and piece of paper. I think I mentioned that on every
Mm.
podcast. Is if you can get a pen and piece of paper and write out some stuff, by the
Mm-hmm.
time you get to a page or two or three, you're gonna find some things out about yourself.
Yeah. I'm
So
big on a walk or exercise. Like physical movement is big for me to like actually tap in and understand what's happening. Yeah.
cold
So
glass of
there's some
water.
options.
So how can people find you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you could definitely find me on my website, joebernsteincoaching.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You could find me on Facebook.
You can find you
Um,
on Facebook,
yeah,
sharing wisdom almost every single day. If you follow
thank
Joe on
you.
Facebook, you will learn so much because he posts really fascinating questions and has really deep conversations like this every single day.
Thank you for seeing that and appreciating that. I'm actually about to launch, maybe by the time this even airs, I'll have launched a Facebook group called Drop the Armor Dojo. So my actual business title name is Drop the Armor Wellness. It's like a metaphor about the emotional armor and the physical armor that I used to carry around. And so Drop the Armor Dojo, which is really going to be about learning to build the skill sets to create a life that lights us up. That'll be coming soon. So you can look for that. But otherwise, just you can reach out to me, email me, check out my website, check me out on social media as well too.
So I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
Why should they look you up?
Yeah.
Why should anybody look you up?
I don't even know if that's for me to answer. If something resonated here and you felt connected to what I shared and you were looking to create some changes in your life, that would make sense. I work with people going through transitions. So if you're going through a big transition, you're moving towards a separation or divorce, you have a career transition coming up, I love to help with those types of things, of course. But really what I'm trying to do more of in my professional work is just create content, create community that serves my bigger mission in life, which is to create a world of love and liberation through transformative relationships and transformative communities. So you can look me up if you just want to have challenging questions on your Facebook feed every day. If you want to see videos about my clients' work or my own life, about how I'm learning to do more and more of the shift from consumer to creator and all the distinctions that go along with it, like emotional constipation, emotional diarrhea, and emotional competence, right? So if you're curious and learning more about what I shared, we talked about today, that's why. Yeah.
Okay. We will put all those links in the show notes so nobody has to remember any of this. So they can get in touch with you and your wisdom. Joe, thanks for sharing with us today. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate you. You guys just got a glimpse of what it's like to have a conversation between Joe and I.
Yeah.
And it may have bored you to tears or it may have fascinated you. But I hope you learned something today because I did. Joe, thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you, Mark. I do appreciate you having me on. This is exciting. I love going on podcasts. I love talking to you. And I'm really, really believe in helping people through midlife because gosh, we need the help. I need the help.
No shit. And to everybody else who's still with us, I really appreciate your time and attention. I love you and have a great rest of the day.